What was your how didn't they notice moment? I was playing hide and seek at a friend's with her younger nieces. I was a teenager and not super committed to playing games with a couple of 8-year-olds, and as a joke I put myself in a corner between a wall and a bookshelf, picked up a pillow off the bed, and held it in front of my face. I was immediately visible once you cleared the doorway. I'm not a small person, and from the chest down I was just a person standing, completely unobstructed. The kids came through, looked right at me, and kept searching with growing confusion. The friend, my age, came in behind them thinking I'd gotten somewhere in the closet, and I had to actually wave to catch her attention. Her dad even came through to join the hunt, and I had to actually clear my throat to get him to notice me. Nobody was able to spot me on their own. I was just standing in plain sight holding a pillow in front of my face, but nobody noticed. Once everybody figured it out they were in hysterics. No one believed I'd been just standing there the entire time. They were certain that I had been hiding elsewhere in the house and then got caught after I'd moved. Nope. Y'all just can't see. I've perfected the art of standing so still that I've become invisible. I went for a job interview when I was 6 months pregnant. I wore a fitted pencil skirt and a fitted short blazer over the top. To my eyes the pregnancy was obvious. I was very slim and I had a belly that poked out at the front, well defined by the fitted outfit I wore. They didn't ask anything about it during the interview, so I assumed they were okay with it and didn't volunteer it. Got the job, and on the first day, at orientation, I got introduced to 2 other women who had been hired the same day for other roles in the admin office I was in. One was accounting assistant, one was admin coordinator, and I was admin assistant receptionist. The 2 other women were also pregnant. One looked enormously so, and as it turned out we were all due within the same week. The woman who hired us said to me happily that they were very excited to have us all start, and I would be getting trained by the new admin coordinator so I could take over some of her responsibilities when she went on maternity leave. I had to tell them that I was also very pregnant as well and would be needing to go on leave at the same time as the other 2 girls. The organization was stunned and didn't know what they were going to do when we all went on leave. Fortunately they were very comfortable with me coming back to work and bring my baby with me after 2 months off. It worked out great and I stayed working there for around 8 years. Incidentally, all 3 of us gave birth within a day of each other. Hahaha. One day my sister mentioned in front of my dad that she'd been helping me rearrange furniture at my house. Mentions my boyfriend. My dad is all surprised. You and your boyfriend sleep in the same room? By that point, we'd been living together for 6 years. It was my BF's house. My parents had been over dozens of times. Where did they think I slept? Oh, we assumed you slept in the guest room. By yourself. Edit. My family is Asian. When my boyfriend, now husband, moved in together my dad was concerned about sleeping arrangements. I told him we bought bunk beds. Hahaha. Just didn't mention they both slept in the same bunk. Today I'll be on the top, you be the bottom. Dad, are you kids talking about which beds you gonna sleep in? I've got a lesbian in the family. Over 40 years old, owns a house with her college roommate who she's lived with since they were in school in the 90s. Neither has had a boyfriend in that time frame, or in one of their cases, ever. Both sets of parents still are clueless, or in deep denial. Offering them advice on where all the single men are, et al. How? How? Question mark. When I was about 13 I shaved my little brother's eyebrow off. I don't know why. I panicked and drew it back on with a marker with little hope that I would get away with it and avoid my mom's anger. Somehow I got through the first day, then the first week, every day getting ready for school and redrawing his eyebrow on with a marker to hide it from my mom. After a couple weeks it had largely grown back and I realized that by some miracle I got away with it. Years later I came clean to my mom and she still refuses to believe that she didn't notice. My sister went to have a bath one night and shaved both her eyebrows off with my granddad's razor that he left in there. When she came out it was noticed immediately. She blamed me even though she entered with eyebrows and came out without them. Cue me and the boys playing hide and seek senior year. It's nighttime. Dark. It had previously rained. The only light is from streetlights and my friend's garage. Friend A counts to 20 in the garage. We all scatter around the outside of his house and a bit further to some other houses. I decide to hide not 10 feet away, in the shadow of an AC unit right outside the garage. I was wearing full black, and I pulled my hood down to cover my entire face. I was in a crouched fetal position. I heard friend A walk past me about 5 times, from both directions. I peeked once and he even glanced directly my way. I was in plain sight. I felt like a ninja. We used to play this cause there was a big grass area in the center of the houses. I always changed to dark blue clothing before we played cause I'd read in a book how ninjas wore dark blue not black. I always won and stopped being asked to play. A great variation on the classic game is sardines. It's basically the same except one person hides, everyone else lucks, and when you find the hider you stick with them and more PPL find you and stick and so on. Keeps going until one lonely person is wandering around saying guys where are you. My hair used to be extremely long, like all the way down my back. On a whim, I decided to cut off most of it and rock a rather short haircut. I walked around my parents' place for over an hour before they actually noticed. I shaved my beard off once. Took my wife a week to notice. Took my mill 30 seconds. In boot camp when it was lights out, many of the other recruits wouldn't sleep and would try to monologue to us about whatever. I wanted to sleep, since we always wake up at 5 AM, and they kept us awake till midnight with their debates. At the top of my motherfucking lungs I yelled bloody murder, shut the fuck up. This went on for a while. Then I started doing it earlier and towards the end I didn't even wait for lights out. No one besides my rack mates knew it was me. No one else ever figured out my voice or where it was coming from. My rack mates got a huge kick from it and well they kept it real because we needed our 4 to 6 hours of sleep. Damn, that makes me think of me lol. I just tell shit in a really loud deep voice. I'm boot camp. I know the exact monologue bullshit you mean lol. Hey guys, my dad sent me a letter telling us to be strong and we can do it. We just gotta work together and try harder guys, come on. If anyone reads this and is shipping out soon, do not be that guy. Only people who should say anything like that should be those actually appointed to leadership position because half the people will not listen at all and do their own thing. A few will listen and everyone else will just be bitching that it's 30 minutes after lights out and you won't shut the fuck up. I was the one who didn't notice. My now husband, way back in the early days of our dating, replaced our giant, bulky, old CRT TV with a nice, new flat screen with his Christmas bonus. He did not tell me any of this. I came home from work one day, wandered past the TV and him playing video games, into the bedroom, back past the TV, then the kitchen. Took me a good 45 minutes before I went, wait, something is different and I don't know what. He still had to point out to me that what was different was the old TV was missing. I did that with my housemate at uni. She was watching it and hadn't noticed it had gone from a 22-inch to a 32-inch. I mean, what's a few inches anyway, right guys? My friend came to work wearing new glasses one day and when she was showing them off to me I mentioned that I was surprised because I had no idea she needed glasses. She had been wearing glasses most days, on and off, for a year since we started working together. Multiple people confirmed this when I didn't quite believe her. Maybe I need glasses v. Photoshopping notes of doctors for high school to excuse myself for hundreds of missed hours. I am a high school teacher in California and while explaining something, I accidentally drew a huge dick on my board. Confirmed not one kid noticed. When I was in year 7, I studied Japanese and we were learning the hiragana. We were at the R characters and the teacher drew ra on the board. She tried to get us to remember it by drawing a second, flipped to create what she claimed was a lion's face. However, the lines were straight enough and just far enough apart that it created a dick. She couldn't understand why her class of 12-year-olds were suddenly laughing uncontrollably. I was buying weed a few years ago. I pulled up to an apartment complex and was waiting for the weed dude when a window in the apartment in front of me opened. A second later a little girl, maybe 10-12, crawled out. I was 21 so and buying weed so my thought was, do I yell up, No, she could fall. Catch her, nope, there's bushes under there. Then she fucking jumped to the balcony next to the window, climbs over the railing, and tries to open the door, but she's locked out. She knocked and some irresponsible, seemingly confused parent opens it and lets her in. No one else saw. I was low-key expecting the girl to sell you weed though. Reality is often disappointing. I used to do customer service for a video game. Can't give details. Don't wanna get sued. Wherein I responded to email tickets. Before sending a ticket, you were required to create an internal note wherein you documented their response and what your response was going to be, plus any additional necessary info to help conduct a search. Once, I wrote in the internal describing their message saying, "Customer sent me a bunch of useless fucking shit." Because, well, they had. After repeated clear instructions, they failed to send me the correct info. So I typed it to unleash the rage, thought I deleted it, then the next day I come in and see I have a response, and I go to start a new internal note, and realize I had, in fact, left that line fully in the previous internal note, which can't be deleted or edited. Meaning that if anyone from the company or my workplace saw it, well, I'd be in a lot of shit. Thankfully, I did this around the holidays and we were swamped with other issues, so no one did any audits of tickets that week. Needless to say, I never played around with that again. Boss, he wrote what? Coworker, reviewing what the client sent you, he wrote the truth. My boyfriend and I initially started dating in high school. Our friend group was me and a bunch of guys, and I was relatively new to the group, and worried I'd become his girlfriend if we went public too quickly, so we kept it quiet. We later stopped caring, but it was too far in to make an announcement without seeming weird, so we decided to just admit everything if anyone ever asked, but not bring it up ourselves. Well, we weren't the couple that was all over each other in public, but we were fairly affectionate, always sitting next to each other, talking somewhat privately, playfully poking and all that. We would also hold hands on our way out of school, when we didn't see anyone around. That last one is what nearly caused problems the most. Regularly someone would come up behind us and say hi, and we'd quickly drop our hands. They never seemed to notice. Shockingly, our friends were really oblivious. We figured that they were probably noticing, but not saying anything. Until one day, somehow a conversation arose about how some people are closer in our group than others. Both of our names are mentioned, and they all say that we seem like close friends. Somehow they all noticed we were close but never put two and two together. I know this because of the shock they experienced when they finally properly found out. We're still together, by the way. This sounds so familiar. Me and my boyfriend then were really close friends before we started dating. While we were still friends, half the people around thought we were dating, so when we actually started dating we didn't see a need to announce it to everyone. We figured since people already assumed we were in a relationship, there wasn't any need for an official announcement. I was surprised 2 years down, when having a conversation with a friend, and he had no clue that we had been dating for so long. Guess a lot of the people thought we were very close friends. We are married now for 10 years this month. And we are still good friend. I was in class of 25 students and spilled tea on my new laptop. I said fuck decently loudly and ran my laptop to the bathroom. No one remembered seeing me spill the tea, hearing me say fuck, or seeing me leave the class. When out class had a small party, with teachers, we were watching a film or something. My classmate was sitting across the room from the door. Noon saw him exit, only enter. A few years ago, my friends and I were drunk as fuck stumbling down the street to McDonald's. My best friend pulls out his dick and starts peeing and walking at the same time. While this is happening, a cop passes by and gets stuck at the light about 10 yards away from us. Literally all he had to do was look to his left and he would have seen 3 teenagers who can't even walk straight laughing their asses off because one is walking and peeing. Very grateful he didn't look. My life would be a lot different if he had caught us. Or maybe you got lucky and it was a cop heading back to the station to end his shift. Cops in that scenario tend to turn a blind eye to small shit like that. Small shit, ouch. My parents are very strict and don't allow me or my siblings to have electronics in our bedrooms, but we'll ignore that rule and continue doing whatever we do online at night. One morning my mother came into my room to wake me up before school started and opened my curtains, which are on the window next to my bed. On the windowsill behind the curtains is where I keep my laptop, Nintendo Switch Lite, phone and sometimes iPad. She proceeded to rip my covers off and said get up before leaving my room. I had never felt utter panic before then. God, there are very few things I hate more than having my covers ripped off in the morning. When I'm all naked and tender and vulnerable. It's the worst way to be woken up. Nothing like burning hot rage to get you going in the morning. A couple years ago I was doing No Shave November, so I had built up a decent growth of beard, and on the last day of the month I decided to shave just half my face and keep it for 24 hours before I took the rest off too. So for one day I went around campus with beard only on the left half of my face, and you could tell that at least 80% of people's brains just extrapolated the second half of my beard because they didn't blink, while the remaining fraction would turn their heads as I walked by. I was talking about it with some friends outside my class while waiting for my professor at one point, and when she arrived my friends tried to show her my face. And it took a full 30 seconds and her putting her face a foot away from mine and peering before she suddenly jumped back and exclaimed, "Oh my gosh." At some point halfway through class she even stopped her lecture to tell me, "I really see it now and your face is very distracting." One time when I still in school my mother walked into my room in the middle of my acid trip and asked me what I was doing up. I turned around instantly with probably the craziest look on my face and said I couldn't sleep. She told me to go to bed and shut my door. Tripped fucking balls that night. The one time I got absolutely baked on a bushwalk with my sister and mother. It was painfully obvious to me how high I was, but my mother still suggested I drive home to get my hours up. My fucking leg was gushing blood and my parents were just like, "Why aren't you in your room studying? You'll be a failure if you don't study hard enough." Like bruh. Back when I used to cut myself regularly, my arm was all scabbed over. My mom was measuring me so she needed me to take off my jacket. I never truly understood panic until that moment. I kind of moved my arm weirdly so she wouldn't see. She just thought I was awkward because she was touching me. I had to sit down for a few minutes after she left lol. I was playing hide and seek in a small store and I'm the only left to be found. I'm talking in the phone with my friend who is also playing with me and giving him clues as to where I am. Now keep in mind I am 17 and don't really want to hide that much longer, so it's pretty obvious where I am, but his cousin walks right past me while I'm talking to my friend. He just completely ignored me and kept walking while I just stared at him, in shock. I then get up and just tell my friend on the phone that his cousin walked right past me. This time I decided to find a better hiding spot just to laugh at them. Got my nipples pierced 3 years ago. It was a bet, I swear. I never really wanted to tell my parents cause that's kind of a weird conversation. I was swimming over at their house and said FCK it, I don't care anymore. I was swimming for 3 hours, they didn't notice and went inside. They are definitely people to make fun of me for it. They wouldn't stay silent. Don't know how the titanium rods shining in the sun weren't noticeable, but I still laugh about it to this day. I am assuming you're their son and not an exhibitionist daughter? That is an accurate assumption. One day I went to the supermarket with my mother and older sister. We had finished shopping and had loaded the shopping into the car. As I was younger I was in the back seat. My sister went to put the shopping cart back and while we was gone my mother pulled out and started driving away. We got about 500 meters down the road before I said to my mother, "What about my sister?" She turns around and looks at me with a glare and looks me dead in the eye for 15 seconds before focusing back on the road and turning around. As we are driving back we see my sister running along the road waving her hands. My sister told everyone the story and my mother just told everyone she is lying. Apparently photoshopping doc notes for real stuff is needed too. One of the classmates in my high school gym class had a legit medical condition, so she'd occasionally bring in doc notes to be allowed to sit out and not participate. A lot of times the gym teacher wasn't willing to buy it and she argued about it a few times. One of the doc notes was written on regular notebook paper, so that time she really wasn't willing to buy it. Kept saying that can't be a real doc's note. But it was, and they remained adamant about it. Teacher went full bitch mode and had them go up to the principal's office to verify it, cause she just refused to believe it was real SMH. Couldn't even see the crime so small.